Good morning, my friends. I am subbing for Don again today while he just squeezes out the last 48 hours of his vacation, and his reentry is going to be brutal coming back to Trump's America. So bear with me as we get through some really heartbreaking news today. I want to bring on Peter, whom all of you know and love, to help talk about the tragedy unfolding in Texas with these floods.
First, Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us. You have been so generous with your time. The Lemon Nation, as you know, adores you. And you're not Don. I'm not Don, but you're just about as close. You're just about as good as it gets. So thank you for
Oh, thank you,
subbing in,
Peter.
especially so last minute. But yes, Jen, as we were talking this morning on the editorial call, the tragedy in Texas is so heartbreaking. Latest estimates suggest that some 81 people have been killed in this horrific flooding. There are still more than a dozen folks who are missing. There are, according to Texas officials, a number of people who we don't even know are missing yet because they may have been camping out on the shores of the Guadalupe River, and we just don't know that they are out there. So it's a sad situation. It's a tragedy. And first and foremost, our sympathy goes to the families of those who have been lost, to the families of those who are still missing. But Jen, as we discussed, this is still a political story. It is a fundamentally, inherently political story, and we cannot lose sight of that. We must walk and chew gum at the same time here, have thoughts and prayers for those who are going through so much heartbreak right now, but also recognize that this was likely preventable. Yes?
100% this was preventable. And this is just, remember, right after Trump came into office, they cut the FAA. What happened? A plane went down. And now you have the FAA saying stuff like, we don't have enough people. Elon Musk, Donald Trump fired them. Now they are firing the National Weather people and the NOAA. And I live in Tornado Alley, and it is the lifeline of what you have to do in the spring if you live in the plains. You get advance warning, and these massive tornadoes come through, and they completely level neighborhoods. My little nephew was at his daycare, and his daycare got completely leveled. But because of advance warning, the teachers were able to put all the kids in an interior room and cover them. But here's the problem with America right now: we are getting primed to accept that preventable deaths are just the way that it is. And think about the gun violence. We are primed by, you can see people get shot in public places, people get shot in schools, people get shot in churches, people get shot in movie theaters. And these same politicians trot out their hypocritical MAGA Christianity thoughts and prayers. Their thoughts and prayers would mean something if they backed it up with policy. In Australia, they had a mass shooting and then they dealt with it, and they've not had a mass shooting since then. Ours only gets exacerbated. And so when you get to preventable deaths and losing somebody who was healthy 1 second and then the very next second is dead is a very difficult thing to process. And then your brain, as a human being, you jump to, how did this happen? Can this be prevented? And in this case, if we're going to live in this country, we need the country run like a government, not a business. And Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans have lied to the public and said, we're going to start running government like a business. Well, what do businesses do? They look out for profits and profits only and dick over everybody else. And so that's what's happened here. But in a stunning development, I was shocked to see Trump on the tarmac say that he still wants to completely defund FEMA.
Yep.
Did you see that?
I did. I think 20% cuts to FEMA have already happened across the board. There is a funding freeze that DOGE is still pursuing. Jen, I believe that you relayed to me that the National Weather Service and the NOAA, by state, it's varied, but it's around 20 to 40% cuts to their budget nationwide. And so, of course, something like this is inevitable. Of course, something is. And for those of you who don't take my word for it, or don't take Jen's word for it, let's play local Texas officials specifically calling out the National Weather Service for failing to accurately predict the forecast over the weekend. Thank you, Andy.
Original forecast that we received on Wednesday from the National Weather Service predicted 3 to 6 inches of rain in the Concho Valley and 4 to 8 inches of rain in the Hill Country. We worked with our own meteorologists to fine-tune that weather statement, and as many of you know, and many of you in broadcast journalism and meteorology, you can go back and look at your own forecast, and the amount of rain that fell in this specific location was never in any of those forecasts.
This rain event sat on top of that and dumped more rain than what was forecasted on both of those forks. When we got the report, it was about 7 feet or so on the South Fork, and within a matter of minutes, it was up to 29 feet, and all of that converged at the Guadalupe, and that's where we saw those very quick rise in flood.
But listen, everybody got the forecast from the National Weather Service, right? You all got it. You're all in media. You got that forecast. It did not predict the amount of rain that we saw.
So, Jen, I don't know about you. I'm a Twitter addict. I'm probably on Twitter a good 3, 4, sometimes 5 hours a day. And this weekend, my timeline was just a travesty. The discourse was split in half. It was 50% of the folks as I scrolled were saying that it was DEI that caused the National Weather Service to not accurately predict the forecast, and then it led to all these terrible deaths. And then the other 50% were arguing that actually this was the quote unquote globalist liberal elite that had hatched a plot and released cloud seeding technology into the air that had somehow purposely caused this storm to kill all these people because it's a predominantly white community. Of course, a lot of folks have heard about this terrible situation at the Mystic River summer camp. I believe it's a Christian girls summer camp, and there are still at least 10, if not more, of these young women, these girls that are missing. And the clear implication, some folks are more explicit than others, was that it was a so-called, a quote-unquote Jewish cabal. It was the globalist Jewish cabal, or the globalist black and brown cabal, that this was just an attack on white Christians in America. And I don't know which was more frustrating, the idea that it was just quote-unquote DEI incompetence that led to this tragedy, or the second idea out of MAGA that it was Jews and or brown people purposely trying to kill off the white race. But that's apparently the reality we live in now. Those are the only two options per half the country.
Isn't that always their play? Immediately blame Black people immediately. When we look at social programs, they lie and say that these are Black people, and they use horrible racist tropes saying they're lazy, when actually white people access these social services far more than Black people. And so it surprises me zero that the administration that ran on racism, that ran and got life because Donald Trump couldn't stand that Barack Obama is better looking, better at golf, better at basketball. And so he tried to say he was born in Kenya. So it surprises me zero that he has now the largest collection of racists in the United States that support him. So when they see these white Christians in the heartland of America with a preventable death, it's impossible for them to accurately put the blame that their savior, who has untethered them, now they can be completely racist as they want. As you noted, Twitter is a complete dumpster fire. And as a woman, I've had it, our podcast doesn't even tweet because the responses that we get and threats for RAPE and stuff, it's just such a dangerous place for women.
Sure.
We don't even go on there, but I look at it. And it's obscene. But of course, they're blaming Black people. Marjorie Taylor Greene trots out all this crazy bullshit. And here's the situation with the MAGA movement. You actually have people that are complete nerds and dorks that love to study this shit. They've spent their whole life studying weather. They've made reports. They do all of this science stuff that would bore me to tears. And as a person living in society, I say, okay, expert, you take the reins here. And if there are now that we live in the modern era and you can give us advanced warnings because we have satellites in the air and we've learned more through science. But a part of this whole thing is blame Black people, blame immigrants, blame gay people, and then the attack on science. And the fact of how casually they just keep escalating the attacks on all of these things um, is alarming. Laura Loomer put out a tweet yesterday that she was tired of not seeing white people in commercials, and that if a product didn't use white people in their commercials, she wasn't going to buy it, and she was sick of DEI commercials. So, I mean, right now, I mean, are we just going to start hearing the N word, hard R, thrown out? Because it's basically the same thing to me. And we know they're saying it in private. We know Trump said it in private for years. But of course, they're blaming Black people. And this is a moment where, Joe Biden would have stepped in and shown empathy. It wouldn't have mattered what color the person's skin was, wouldn't have mattered if it was a red state or a blue state. The same with Obama. But Trump has made racism and red state, blue state, he's just brought us all down to the lowest bottom feeding component. And the fact that we all have to live in this time, I would be remiss if I didn't say to all of the Black people that watch Dawn's show daily, that for a lot of white people, we're experiencing for the first time what you all have experienced your entire lives in America. And my hope is that there can be a white awakening through all of this shit and this horror and this racism that we're seeing. Can we start messaging a white awakening to provide empathy and allyship with the Black community, and get, it's 2 steps forwards with Trump, 95 steps back, but we did elect a Black man as president.
True.
And can we help facilitate some sort of white awakening that what you're experiencing right now down in rural Texas, and how the government's treating you and blaming and not being accountable, this has been the Black experience this whole time. So I don't know how to do that, but I know that that's what I want to be a part of. I want to help point out to these white people that are going through these things that this is the Black experience. They've been forgotten, blamed, shamed. Nobody's alerted them, to danger, blame them for danger. So I'm hopeful, it's not going to happen now, but at some point we can start the conversation, because Donald Trump and his policies are going to rain hellfire on rural white Americans. So I think if we are smart enough to message the marginalization that is going to happen to these people that haven't quite ever experienced before, but this is what our Black brothers and sisters have experienced their entire life in this country.
Forgive me, Jennifer, if I gave you this spiel early last week, but what makes me so angry is it is just the pettiest, stupidest cultural grievances, episodes of white supremacy, of white insecurity that have led us to this place. 17 million people are now going to lose their health care because the green M&M took off her go-go boots, okay? We now have a secret police in this country in the form of ICE because Disney dared to put a Black actor in a stormtrooper costume. To Laura Loomer's point, who's to say that 80 plus people are now dead in Texas because of Trump's NOAA cuts, because of his National Weather Service cuts, that was all directly caused because one too many interracial couples were in Honey Nut Cheerios commercials. It's all just so stupid. Like, gentlemen, I'm sorry that your anthropomorphic chocolate doesn't get you hard anymore. But do we really need to end American democracy because of that? Can't you just not buy the M&Ms? Why do we need to go through such cultural, such nationwide self-sabotage just because, you're no longer aroused by a piece of candy? It's just, it makes me so angry.
Trump tapped into the white rage that exists in the United States. And, living in a red state and being in situations with a lot of white people, you see a lot more racism than you do out in mixed groups or out in social. And people are pretty casual about it. And I think the white experience is, you don't realize how privileged you are. And then when you see somebody of color and you've grown up around racist remarks, I didn't. Fortunately, my parents are super progressive and have fought the good fight. But you see a person of color advancing all the way to the White House, when I think about what happened to Kamala Harris and how qualified she was and how Donald Trump beat her, it makes me really, really sad. And I know that all of us feel helpless and hopeless about all of this, but I want to remind everybody that that is the desired effect of an authoritarian. They want to exhaust us and make us feel helpless and hopeless. But we mustn't give up the fight, and we must form allyships and brotherhood and sisterhood for all of us. And I just want to throw this out there. Think about this, you guys.
Go.
Republican Party of personal accountability. If a Black person gets roughed up by the cops, what do they say all over Fox News? Don't resist. You shouldn't resist. And they're all so quick to point their finger in the most racist, superior, just demeaning style way. But think about the juxtaposition of this. Donald Trump, who I guess is a weak man's idea of a strong man, but let's just describe how little President Taco Tits behaves. All day, every day, he's a whining, complaining titty baby. He gets on about the 2020 election or about 60 Minutes being mean to him, and he can go on about it forever. He is a victim who sits and whines and complains 24/7 nonstop. He takes zero personal accountability for anything. So when it comes to this flood, is he going to step up and take personal accountability and say, we did some funding cuts and we fucked up and we're going to try to rectify it? No. I saw him on the tarmac trying to blame Joe Biden. Like he said, the water situation is Biden's. Of course, this man has dementia and he can't keep a train of thought. But this guy, he will sit and whine and complain nonstop. And you have all of these white racists that get behind him. And then when the Black community does something like, say, Black Lives Matter or the police over police our districts, then they say, well, you shouldn't break the law. You should do this. And it's just the contrast of the standard that he gets to operate in and how he sits and whines and complains. The fact that that motherfucker is not in prison tells you 1,000,000% how different the white experience is. Can you imagine if Obama did a fraction of any of this? A fraction. If he cut the National Weather Service and then little girls at a Christian camp died, little white girls at a Christian camp died, they would be doing everything in their power right now to put bracelets on his wrist and put him in a cell. That's what they would be doing. Instead, the only thing he gave them is he wore a tan suit and they lost their goddamn minds over it.
Yeah. Gosh, Jennifer, we're going to continue this conversation in just about 15 minutes with Clay Kane, host on Sirius XM Urban View, good friend of the show. He'll be joining us shortly. But before that, Jennifer, there's another story that I think we need to talk about because the girls, they are fighting. The girls are fighting again. I know that this is now the third time we've talked about this, but it's getting nastier. It's getting uglier. Andy, if you would, can we throw up that Daily Beast reporting? Trump has gone nuclear on quote unquote train wreck, quote unquote off his rails, Elon Musk. Jennifer, any initial thoughts on this now third round of cattiness, I suppose, between the president and his former first buddy before we get into the specifics?
Okay. First and foremost, delicious, so predictable, love every second of it. But I think that the situation with these two is there's some form of mutually assured destruction at some point. That up in the campaign, there were secrets made, illegal shit done. I don't know what. This is just a personal theory of mine. And Musk is always the one that likes to throw out that about Elon. I'm sorry, about Trump and Epstein, right?
Yes.
And then Trump likes to, now he's pointing out that basically Elon Musk is a corporate welfare queen. But here's the thing that's just so crazy about this. And this, you and I talked about this a little bit off camera before we started. So this is what's fascinating to me. You have Elon Musk, who is an immigrant, who joins a racist immigrant, anti-immigrant movement. They held up signs, mass deportation now. But he thinks he's so special and he thinks he's so different that they're going to make an exclusion for him. But with the minute he stepped out of line, what happens? Bannon's talking about deporting Elon Musk. They asked Trump, are you going to deport Musk? Well, we better look into that. The arrogance to think that all of these anti-immigration people aren't at some point going to point at you and say, well, you're not even American, is just, I don't know if it's hubris, just breathtaking arrogance or whatever. Then you have, whatever gay people are in this administration, and you've got Scott Bessent. So you have this whole homophobic administration, and the Secretary of the Treasury, evil demon queen Scott Bessent is what I like to call him. And this queen thinks that somehow all of these white, crusty old men that are huge homophobes aren't at some point going to turn their knives on them. The same thing with Kash Patel. He's brown skinned. At some point, Kash, I'm just going to tell you, they're going to turn their knives on you. And their number one reason for doing it is going to be the color of your skin. And then you can look at, the black, what's his name? The black Congress, Byron Daniels. Or whoever.
Byron Donalds.
Yeah. At some point, you're going to be the target. If you join the racists, at some point, you're going to be the first on the chopping block. So this goes all the way to Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, who, by the way, is only rich because of American taxpayers. And we subsidized him completely. And he's a total grifter and a total drug addict. And he's a complete nut job. And I'm here to watch the complete downfall of this relationship. And I have to note how fucked up it is, because presidents are supposed to be boring. We shouldn't be involved in all this drama. This is for Bravo. I remember when Peter and I were just talking about this, when Obama would come on, I think, God, he's easy on the eyeballs. He's great. He's a great speaker, but he's talking about boring policy shit. I'm going to change the channel. That's what the president should be. But instead, here we are. I'm kind of salivating over this fight. And that's fucked up, Peter.
No, presidential politics should not be fantasy football. It should not be a Real Housewives reunion. It should be boring. It should be boring. It should only be the biggest nerds in the planet, like Jen and I, who are following it. It should not be all of us forced into this collective mass Stockholm Syndrome-esque type relationship where we have to think and choose sides between Daddy Elon and Daddy Trump and who's right and who's wrong and who's winning. Can we all just calm down? But no, of course we can't, because this is the hellish reality in which we find ourselves. Andy, if you would skip ahead one element, I'd like to throw up what kicked off, I think, the latest round of fighting between Elon and Trump. This is the meme that Mr. Musk posted mocking Trump's administration for not handling the Epstein logs as they promised. So for those of you who are listening on Spotify, this is Elon Musk's Twitter account. He posts an emoji, the cursing emoji, and the 4 stages of the meme are, it's a gentleman who is slowly but surely getting more and more into a clown outfit, clown makeup. And the first aspect of the meme, he just has the base layer of makeup, and it says, "We will release the Epstein List." Proceeds to, "We just need more time." Proceeds to, "The Epstein List is on my desk." Proceeds to, "There is no Epstein List." Now, once again, you don't have to take my word for it. You don't have to take Jennifer's word for it. Let's play, please, Andy, Pam Bondi. Not 10 years ago, not 5 years ago, not 2 years ago, not even, say, a year ago, 6 months ago. This was her in February or March saying that she literally, as Elon for once rightly points out, accurately points out, saying that she has the Epstein logs on her desk. Andy, please take it away.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
So have you seen anything that you said, oh my gosh?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, we'll check back with you.
Spoiler alert, everyone. Trump's name is on the list and they've shut it down so fast it'll make your head spin. Elon knows this, so he keeps baiting him out there. But I think this thing with Elon is going to get really interesting because I think here's Trump and Elon, here's a bag of ketamine, and here's the total nuclear weapon, right? That Elon can spill. And so he gets close with this Epstein stuff that on our side of the internet, we've all known about this stuff forever. But at some point, Elon's going to get really high and really mad, and he's going to do something that he cannot be undone. And it's going to be something very, very, very damaging. I am sad. I am here for it. I know it's going to happen because those two were up to all sorts of fuckery in the lead up to the election, in my opinion. I think they are just up to all sorts of shit. Elon Musk knew there were investigations into him. That's why they came up with this idea of DOGE. He's not trying to cut money. That motherfucker went into all those agencies, you guys, and stole all the evidence against him, shut down all the investigations, had some 18-year-old named Big Balls get it all off the hard drive. And guess what's happened now? No investigations into Elon Musk. They're all gone. Every single one of them are gone. I've read reporting that up to 16 investigations into him and his companies. Think about it like this. That MFer was blowing up ships off the coast of Florida. We have commercial airplanes flying everywhere. There's debris going everywhere. And they had to ground planes. Pete Buttigieg and the Biden administration said we have to ground the planes because this rocket debris is going everywhere. What is Elon Musk? One of the first things he does, fuck you, FAA, a bunch of you are fired. I want to be able to launch my rocket ship whenever and however I want to, because he thinks he's better than everybody else. So I just think there's going to be a lot of stuff that comes down that takes them both down, because Elon doesn't have, he's a drug addict, and he's not going to have the mindset to properly retain some facts that could damage him. He's going to blow the whole thing wide open. And guys, we are set for it. We are set.
So Andy, if you would please toss up the Axios reporting about how the Trump administration, I believe this was late yesterday, if not early this morning, they have, yes, finally, formally concluded that Jeffrey Epstein had no so-called client list, did not have Epstein logs, and he did indeed die by unaliving himself. Got to be careful with the YouTube algorithm and that word. Jen, pardon me as I get on my soapbox, as I get on my Clydesdale, my big old high horse for just a second, because as we were talking about on our editorial call, what makes me so angry about this is put aside the idea that there may or may not be an Epstein list or what have you. Regardless, we know for a fact that there were many, many, many young women who were trafficked, who were traumatized, who were abused by this man and his co-conspirators. And what MAGA has done, what Trump in particular and his loudest sycophants have done over the last decade, is turn Jeffrey Epstein into a meme, into a weaponized meme that's almost a joke at this point. That they would toss out that name as red meat to the base to get them fired up about Democrats and the liberal elite and usually quote unquote Jews. And now that they're empowered once again, that Trump is in the White House, and who knows, it honestly doesn't really matter if there is a list and Trump is on it and that's why they're not releasing it, or if there is no list and they're actually telling the truth here. The point is they have treated these women like puppets, like tools that they've trotted out time and again whenever it's politically expedient. They don't give a shit about these women who have been abused. There's no sympathy for them. That is... It makes me so angry. There are so many four-letter words, Jennifer, that are on the tip of my tongue. And instead, I'm just going to toss it back to you because sometimes four-letter words are not too productive.
I agree. Although I can't help myself sometimes. They just come right out. But I agree with you. But here's something we have to understand about the psychology of this political movement. When you dehumanize a group of people, whether it be Black people, immigrants, gay people, you dehumanize everybody. It primes you to dehumanize everybody. So of course they don't care about these victims, even though they talk about being pro-life all the time. They don't care about once that fetus is born. They don't care about basically a multi-level marketing scheme that Jeffrey Epstein was running with these little girls. And these are just, it's rape, it's sex crimes. I don't know if I should have said that. It's RAPE, sex crimes. Anyway, it's so egregious. But when you look at like, what's his name? Ohio State senator who covered up molestation and
Jim
sexual.
Jordan.
Jim
Allegedly.
Jordan. Allegedly. So, you have, there's just a dehumanization across the board. And when you start, it starts in this country with racism. That's the inception of this country is racism. And when you dehumanize anybody, nobody is safe. No one is safe at that point because it primes you to dehumanize more and more and more people. And that's why we have to actively fight against the root causes of all of this. And it's a dehumanization and exploitation that is allowed in so many facets of our society. And I always go back to this. It's WASP, white, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant. If a bunch of rich white men were to be victimized, you can see Donald Trump thinks he's been victimized, how he whines and groans and complains about it. They might actually do something, but they're not going to do anything about any of this because at the end of the day, the entire movement of MAGA is about exploitation, and it is an attack on poverty, on poor people, on Black people, on immigrants. And they're just so brazen right now. And I have these really strange moments where I'm like driving in my car and a song comes on and I'm like, oh yeah, I love this song. I'm like, God, everything feels normal. But then behind the scenes, all this shit's going on. And it's what's happened in the right wing and how conspiracy theory they are, like eating the dogs, eating the cats. I don't know how we fix these people. I don't know what to do with them because Trump is not a spring chicken. He's 79. He's morbidly obese. He clearly has, advanced cognitive decline, per my opinion. And so he's not going to live forever. But what do we do with these tens of millions of Americans that vote for him, that like all this crap? That's what keeps me up at night because Trump, I can see the end of him at some point. I mean, he's old as shit. You can tell he's not very healthy. So I don't even really worry that much about him. I worry about all the people around him and his supporters. They scare me a lot.
Jen, you've been the best as always. Thank you so much for hopping on. To fill in for you, we have another dear friend of the show coming on, Clay Kane, New York Times bestselling author and host on SiriusXM Urban View. Clay, how you doing, dude?
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Jen.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. And thank you, Lemon Nation. Don will be back soon. You guys have fun tearing it up. See y'all later.
Yes, Lemon Nation, it's an honor to be here filling in for Don Lemon. There's so much going on right now. Could I just talk about what's happening in Texas for a minute, Peter? Is that okay?
Please, could you, I'm sorry, Clay, your audio is a little weak. Do you think maybe you could fix your mic?
Is it? Oh, let me see here. Let me see. Let me fix.
Andy, is there any way you could put Clay backstage for 1 second and test his audio, or is it better to do it up here?
Yeah, I can't hear it backstage, so
okay, no worries. Yeah, let's just test it this way. We'll make it work.
It sounded like a loose cable or something, Clay. You're muted right now, though.
Is that better?
Can you talk a little bit longer?
1 2 1 2. Is that better?
No, it still sounds
a little low. Yeah.
Yeah. If you have a laptop mic or something, we could try that instead.
Sorry, guys. Technical gremlins. This is the nature of the beast in live news.
Technical stuff here.
Oh, I think that sounds pretty good.
What about this?
That sounds good to me.
That's good too. Yeah.
Okay, this is good. Okay, great. Yeah,
oh no, it's not. Sorry.
It's not. Oh,
it seems good for a second, and then it gets all crinkly. Let's go back to the other.
Okay, I'll go back to the other settings here. Audio. Okay. How's that?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, we'll do that for now. Okay.
Clay, you're the floor. Go, my dude.
So I think what's really sad in this moment, thinking about what's happening in Texas, is that it's not just a natural disaster. It's a political failure. It's political negligence. And so when I think about the great state of Texas, I just wonder, are folks going to vote differently? Are they going to show up differently? This is a blood red state. It has the Republican trifecta. And this is literally happening because we have people in office who are incompetent, who want to end FEMA. I mean, I can recall 20 years ago with Hurricane Katrina, 20 years ago, President Bush paid the price for his failure in Hurricane Katrina. Now, I'm not a fan of President Bush at all, but he was held accountable. He was called out by Democrats, but also some Republicans called him out as well. And I just can't believe 20 years later that we have regressed, that it's being blamed on DEI, like Jennifer was saying. So are you going to vote differently? Are you going to show up differently? I mean, this is what happens when you fire DEI hires. Maybe if you had your quote unquote DEI hires there, this wouldn't be happening. The National Weather Service wouldn't have to worry about getting the wrong information. So is the state going to vote and show up differently? Because what pisses me off is that you see bad behavior being rewarded, bad behavior being celebrated at the voting booth. You have children who died. I mean, there's no reason why this should happen. And if we had a Kamala Harris administration, this would be different. But to Jennifer's point, is the protection of the cult, is it that important? Do you really think that the other party is the evil party? I mean, how are we going to do this any differently? How are we going to show up any differently? We had this No Kings protest and so on. So where's going to be the protest for this? What will it look like at the voting booth? And that's what it's concerning to me, because I would tell you the Harris-Walz administration, they spent a lot of time in Texas. Colin Allred run as well to challenge, Cancun cruise, right? Did all of that. And so for all the outrage and the hurt, how does it show up at the voting booth? And if death and devastation doesn't, I just wonder what's going to wake people up. What's going to wake you up? It's really disturbing.
Yeah, Clay, Jennifer and I referenced this at the top of the show. We can walk and chew gum in this moment. We can have overwhelming sympathy. We can have thoughts and prayers, as charged as those terms are, for the victims and for the families of the victims of this horrific tragedy down in Texas. But we can also talk about why it happened, why there was a 20% across the board cut to FEMA, why there was a funding freeze at FEMA, why the NOAA and why the National Weather Service had massive cuts, thousands of employees fired, and how local Texas officials on the ground said it in no uncertain terms. We can play the sound again in a minute or two, that this is because the forecasts were inaccurate, because those scientists got it wrong. But there's another thing that I didn't get to touch on with Jennifer that I want to make really clear, because as you pointed out a second ago, Clay, we can talk about the folks who contributed to this mess, who fucked around and are now finding out. But one thing I want to make very clear is we're not on this show ever going to blame the citizens of the great state of Texas. Because I saw a lot of folks online on social media over the course of the weekend reveling in schadenfreude, because as we both know, Texas went red.
Yeah.
There was one influencer in particular who tweeted, quote, "Rut-row, Texas, what you gonna do? There's no FEMA to pick you up by your bootstraps. They gave it all to ICE." Now, I want to be clear about something. That influencer lives in Michigan. 2 million more people voted for Kamala Harris in the state of Texas than in the state of Michigan. The contempt that we're seeing from some Americans for their fellow Americans in this moment is driven by nothing more than the worst type of partisanship. Because I guarantee you, there are folks who were either lost in this storm, or there are family members who have had folks lost in this storm who are Democrats, who are died in the blue, liberals, who voted for Kamala Harris. And we need to not forget our humanity in this moment. Lay blame at the feet of those where blame is deserved.
Exactly. Yeah.
DOGE officials, perhaps Elon Musk, perhaps Donald Trump, but not average Texans. They didn't ask for this. And there are a lot of really good people down there who are hurting right now. Sorry, Clay, back to you.
Yeah, and also, when there was that horrible plane crash in D.C., people, including the president, was implying that it was DEI. They're always looking for a scapegoat. And this is old school. This is what Barry Goldwater did with his whole Southern strategy. Richard Nixon did it. Ronald Reagan did it with the whole welfare queen narrative. You gotta find a scapegoat, because it can't be your policies. It can't be you as the politician of how you're responsible for it. So you say that all the money went to ICE. I mean, it's so cruel. It's just a lack of basic kindness and humanity. Where's your God? Where's your church? Where's your Jesus? Where's your evangelicalism? Trump won the evangelical vote by disturbing numbers. Where is it? Where is it? It's so freaking just harsh and cruel. But this is where we are. And this, we've always had some ugliness there. But in my lifetime, I just haven't seen it so blatant. There was a veneer, if you will, of, a little bit of, okay, we're going to lie to your face a little bit. But now it's clear. And then there's also this thing that I'm seeing so much of this dominant victimhood, that it is the rich people that are being taken advantage of, right? It is the people who make, nearly $1 million. You look at this recent big shitty bill that went through. All these people are being taken. It is the people who depend on immigrant labor. They're the ones being taken advantage of. All these wealthy white folks are the ones who are being hurt. So it's this dominant victimhood. And if the dominant folks can find someone to look down on, then they have done their political job, the Republican Party. It's really, really disturbing. Could we talk about what Scott Bessent recently said?
Please.
Do we have that clip? I want to talk about this for a minute, because this ties into everything that we're discussing. He did an interview about the cuts to Medicaid, and he claims that Americans won't even notice. You won't even notice at all. Listen to this.
The president promised that there would not be changes to Medicaid benefits, and putting a work requirement is, by definition, a change to benefits.
No, there are no change in benefits. There's a change in requirements to get the benefits. And what we are doing, we are bringing back manufacturing jobs. We are bringing back working class jobs. By securing the border, we have already seen working class wages move up. So we are creating jobs. People can get off Medicaid and get a job that has good health care benefits.
In theory, that works, but I'm sure you've seen and heard a lot of the concern, including and especially from Republicans who are the most vocal in Congress, about the fact that those work requirements are going to be very cumbersome to actually prove, and it will inevitably force the people who need that Medicaid coverage off the rolls.
Well, first of all, the Republicans are not the most vocal on this. It is a group of Democrats who unfortunately seem to think that poor people are stupid. I don't think poor people are stupid. I think they have agency, and I think to have them register twice a year for these benefits, that is not a burden.
So he also said that the manufacturing jobs, we're going to give them all these manufacturing jobs, are going to come back. Those manufacturing jobs aren't coming back. Trump, when he left office in 2021, he had lost 178,000 manufacturing jobs. They're not coming back. So why don't you bring these so-called manufacturing jobs back before you kick people off of Medicaid? Why don't you start there? Because I was on Medicaid as a kid. I know what it's like. And most folks who are on Medicaid, they're working. But you talk about, and this is the same thing Ronald Reagan did. It's this trickle-down bullshit. We're going to give you all these jobs. You're going to be able to work, as if every job you get is going to give you health insurance. Not every job gives you health insurance, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just cruelty by law. But if you want to do this bullshit, then let's bring the jobs back first and then make your so-called changes to Medicaid. And then the idea of these requirements. Arkansas tried this, and they lost 18,000 folks were kicked off of Medicaid. I believe the ultimate goal is to end any social services. And it's going to hurt their constituents because the jobs aren't there. And they want to convince, we're going to bring all these manufacturing jobs back. Well, how are you going to do that with all these damn tariffs? Tell me how you're going to do it. When you have more the tariff war, are you going to build new factories within about 30 days? Is that going to happen? So you're going to kick people off. They aren't going to have access to jobs. It's going to create more poverty. Therefore, that will create more crime. Scott Bessent is bullshit. He's the token gay dude in the administration and will tap dance his ass off to make his daddy happy. It pisses me off.
You know what's funny, Clay?
I'm a gay dude. I can say it. Folks like.
But as I was watching that clip, particularly when he says, I think poor people are smart. I don't think poor people are dumb. You know what came to mind for me is how one of the reigning themes of MAGA is speaking in defense of everyday Americans, but not being able to mask your dripping condescension,
right,
your outright disrespect, and in some cases hatred for them. I think we can all think back to, I believe it was prior to even Trump 1.0, he was still on the campaign trail, and he said, the president on the campaign stage, I love the poorly educated.
Yes.
Again, this bizarre juxtaposition where in theory you're saying something populist, saying something in defense of your average Joe, but also very clearly giving the game away, going mask off and making clear, oh, you hate these people. You do not remotely respect these people. And there's been tons of reporting suggesting this, that Trump thinks that his supporters are rubes, that he thinks they're gross, that he has hand sanitizer bottles at the ready after shaking hands with them. It's so very frustrating because as you alluded to, Clay, overwhelmingly, disproportionately, it's white rural voters who are going to be most impacted by this big bullshit bill. It's their hospitals that are going to close. It's their children and their parents who are going to be kicked off of healthcare. But white supremacy is one hell of a drug.
It is. And the majority of people on social services happen to be white, even per capita, it's strange to me. Never forget that Newt Gingrich, remember that? When he called Obama the food stamps president.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing. This is a long time in the making. This is just a long time, whether it's the cuts to FEMA, the cuts to the FAA, the DOGE cuts, whether it is Medicaid, it is a long time in the making because they're trying to convince people, again, it is the upper class who are the victims. And these lazy, because if you're poor, you deserve to be there. If you don't have a good enough job, you just didn't work hard enough.
Yep.
If you don't have Medicaid and your kids are starving, it's just because you're lazy and you're shiftless. That's what it is. But Trump is going to bring back all your manufacturing jobs. As when you go to a grocery store, the majority of us, what do you see? You see AI.
Yep.
I used to be a cashier at ShopRite back in the day. You see about 3-4 cashiers, and all you see is self-service. I would like to see us invest in, which the Biden-Harris administration tried to do, invest in the future. Yep. Remember when Trump was saying he's going to bring back coal mining jobs? Mm-hmm. Do you recall that? He said he's going to bring back coal. Where are the coal mining jobs, bro? Show me where the coal mining jobs are. Like, they're lying to your face. They're telling you all this bullshit, and people believe it. And then I got to say this too, Peter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching TV on Sunday, just chilling.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw so many ads on television thanking Trump for the big, beautiful bill. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. This is going to bring American prosperity, over and over and over. And then I looked around and I said, well, where the hell are the Democratic ads? Y'all had many, many, many months to prepare for this. Y'all should have had a Democratic, an ad against this big, stupid bill ready to go the minute pen went to paper. What are y'all doing? I appreciate your speeches. That's great. But there is already an ad within 48 hours congratulating Trump for his terror. And there's nothing from the Democrats. What is going on? They're celebrating like it's the damn Super Bowl. And the Democrats, Ken Martin, if you're out there, somebody, I got 4 text messages saying, hey, donate $5. What are y'all doing? Y'all should have ads everywhere telling people how horrible this will be, how it will affect you at every point in your life. While they're doing celebration ads of people working in factories and how beautiful it's going to be and you're going to get a tax cut, you should have had an ad ready to go, hit publish, and have it on every major network and all over social media. And that's where the Democrats piss me off, because I saw it so many times, Peter. I'm like, what the hell? How many months? And there isn't one counter ad? Come on now.
They need to come to understand how to communicate what the implications of the big bullshit bill are going to be, of Trump's tariff regime. When Howard Lutnick comes on air and he says that, of course, we want American children to be tiny, we want them to be screwing tiny screws into iPhones. We want them to be working in sweatshops. We want to reshore all of this manufacturing that we deliberately offshored decades ago because it would lead to more prosperity for Americans at home. We need to communicate, Democrats need to communicate what that will actually mean for future generations. Because to your point, with the AI revolution, with our move towards more efficient means of energy, the coal mining jobs are coming back. Jobs at Target are not going to come back. What we need right now is a mass retraining campaign for average Americans so that they're prepared for the jobs of the future. Because guess what? Nostalgia doesn't pay the bills. We can talk about how great coal mining jobs were back in the day, how great American manufacturing was back in the 1970s. But those jobs are never going to come back, despite what Trump and Howard Lutnick and Scott Bessent want to tell you. No one has been and no one will be more hurt by this administration and their policies than literally their own voters, than white middle class, white lower class voters in the Midwest and rural America. They're going to be devastated by these policies, and they just don't know it yet.
Yeah, they don't know. And what scares me is that maybe there's this famous quote from Lyndon B. Johnson. He said, if you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him somebody to look down on and he'll empty his pockets for you. There are people right now who are emptying their pockets.
Yeah.
They're literally emptying their pockets. And I saw the comment of somebody saying those ads wouldn't impact people in the cult. I'm not talking about folks in the cult. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about the average non-voter who may not be paying attention and watching TV or scrolling on their social media on a Sunday morning. You know, getting those voters, okay, they're already in there. There's some that might go away. I'm talking about activating Democratic voters. You know, I'm out on these streets. I talk to people who don't really know what this big, beautiful bill is. Democrats got to make it plain. Y'all are getting a lot of money. Make a good ad. Hell, call Steven Spielberg, call Ava DuVernay, tell them to make you a good 60-second ad spot. Do something.
And they'll do it.
They'll do it.
Willingly, proudly do it.
Yeah, they'll do it. I mean, my God, like, break it down, make it plain for people, as Malcolm X used to say. And so there's people that don't get it. And then some of it, not all, you're not going to feel until a little bit later, until 2026.
Exactly. I was going to say just that, because some of it, Clay, to your point, is Democrats being caught flat-footed. But some of it is also the insidiousness of the bill, of Republican strategy, where when we talk about 17 million Americans, the 17 million Americans who are going to lose their health care because of this bill, they were very smart. And they structured it so that will not come into effect until after the 2026 midterms. And so Democrats are now between a rock and a hard place where they absolutely need to communicate all the implications of what this legislation is going to do. But they also need to make clear the cruelty is delayed. It's going to be a little while. And that's a tough message to sell to Americans who have, as I like to say on the show, the memory of goldfish. We are a goldfish people in a goldfish society. And it's tough to say, you guys, I know you're not going to feel it right now, but a year from now, a year and change, your lives are never going to be the same. The lives of your children are never going to be the same.
I know I said this last week, but I'm going to keep on saying it. You know, George Clooney and Rob Reiner and all these celebrities were just babbling so much this time last year about how Biden should step down. George Clooney, where's your op-ed right now? I want to see your robust op-ed in the New York Times. Rob Reiner, where's your op-ed? Where's all your tweets telling America what they should do? Because y'all got all the money. George Clooney, you're going to be all right. You got all your money, you're good. But all these folks saying, step down, step down. Where is it? I want to see. I want you to tell us exactly what's happening right now. Inform the people, because you felt like there was no way that Joe Biden could win. Well, tell us where we are right now. We could use your voice, George Clooney. All that money you got, I don't know, donate it somewhere. Let us know what's happening. Inform everybody. Inform. But hey, this is where we are right now. So my heart really goes out to everybody impacted in Texas. I lived through Sandy Hook when I was in Jersey. That was terrifying. And as much as I didn't like Governor Chris Christie, New Jersey governor, former Governor Chris Christie, him and President Barack Obama worked together. This is where leadership is so important. And it's not about your ego. And it isn't about the D or the R or blue and red. It's about helping people, assisting people. It's not about a silly press conference or whatever the case may be. There are people who are in need, and we need our government to help us because we give so much to our government. We pay for these things. We put money into this. You deserve to be protected in return. So my heart really goes out to everybody. And the sad thing is, it's July 7th, Peter. We're only 7 months into this bullshit. Hurricane season is about to hit. Texas,
and
Louisiana.
Sorry, go.
No, bro. This is just the prequel of how horrible this could be when hurricane season hits. What's going to happen? Are y'all going to prepare? Are y'all going to do anything? Is there a plan? Is there a strategy? As Elon Musk, those two gals are going back and forth, Elon and Trump. Can you imagine if Obama was exchanging rage tweets with Bill Gates? Could you imagine? So what are you going to do? They're going to do what they can get away with.
No, Clay, this didn't hit me until you just said that. Some 81 people are dead. Dozens of children are dead, drowned in the state of Texas.
My God. And
what is the most powerful man in the world doing right now? Calling the world's richest man a drug addict who's off the rails, who's a train wreck. And what is the world's richest man doing? Not donating, not donating, not paying into relief efforts, rescue efforts. Exactly. He's calling the president a pedophile. Like right now, the national discourse is about who is a pedophile and who is a drug addict, as opposed to how do we rescue these kids? I don't know if you saw, Clay, but there was one AP headline that came out yesterday. I teared up because such relief washed over me. They found two, I believe, 10-year-old girls clinging to each other, alive, thank God, atop a tree because the floodwaters were still so high. But that doesn't make the headlines. It's Trump and Elon's catty bullshit. And if I can hammer home one last point, because I saw some folks in the chat saying earlier when I was talking about how there are so many millions of Americans who voted blue in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
And I saw some folks saying, well, I don't care. Texas still went red. They voted for this. You guys got to try and resist that impulse. Because again, yes, I understand that Texas went red, but there are so many millions of folks who did not vote for this, who definitively voted against this. And then even just put politics aside, literally in this tragedy, there are so many children who have died and who we're likely going to find out have died. So this is not the time. I know, I feel like I'm saying two different things. This is both not the time for politics, and it's absolutely the time for politics. Absolutely. We should be talking about why DOGE is responsible for this, why Trump is responsible for this, why Musk is responsible for this, but not the people of Texas, not right now.
I mean, listen, I love Texas. Texas gave us Barbara Jordan, the late, great Barbara Jordan. We have Jasmine Crockett in Texas. We have Rep. Al Green in Texas. Yep. Texas gave us Beyonce. Texas gave us Beyonce, gave us Janis Joplin. Texas is a lot. We need Texas, y'all. So no, I agree with you. And I think that's the heartbreaking thing, that so many people are impacted who did not contribite to this. Mm-hmm. That's why we could all just collectively get on the same page. And I don't know, I'll never forget after 9/11, I was in New York. That was so long ago. I mean, New Yorkers, we're picky. New Yorkers, we get irritated easily. But the kind of camaraderie I saw with New Yorkers during 9/11, it was so beautiful. I mean, we'll still cuss you out, though. Well, I lived in Jersey to be exact at the time. Still cuss you out, but there was still a camaraderie there, and I don't know what it will take to get back to that. And I don't want it to be a 9/11 to get back to that. So we got to show up and show out for our people. We have to have empathy and humanity, even when the guy at the top doesn't. We have to lead with our soul and not with our pocket, and hope that the better voices, kind of to what Jennifer was saying, they're going to show up. And she was talking about a white awakening. If you need some examples of that, look up Thaddeus Stevens, look up Charles Sumner, look up John Brown. There are plenty of folks out there who always got it. Those are the names folks don't want you to know. They'd rather you know about the Confederates that they're putting back on naval bases, but they don't want you to know John Brown's history and Charles Sumner's history and Thaddeus Stevens' history. We can look in our history and find that white awakening, right? And do the right thing moving forward if we have reputable elections moving forward. Well, I was going to pray that we do. I'll pray
Clay, thank you so much for coming on, especially so last minute. For folks in the chat, you're going to be very happy to hear that Clay will be back at 5 p.m. and we might just have some very special guests. I don't want to spill the beans unless you do. But we could have some really fun folks with us.
Yeah, we're working it out. Yes, I'll be back at 5 o'clock. Can't wait to have the full hour. Follow me on social media at Clay Kane. Pre-order my book, Burn Down Master's House. And I'm super excited. I love Lemon Nation. I'm glad Don's having some downtime. So we'll have a good time at 5 o'clock, y'all. I'll be back.
Hell yeah. Guys, you know what we say at the end of every show. You can be informed without being inundated. Now, until 5 p.m., turn this TV off.
Thanks everyone for watching. Your support means the world to us. So make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe to our channel to make sure that you never ever miss a video. We're live every day, 10 a.m. Eastern time. We drop even more content at 2 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you want more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon community, where you will receive access to special community posts. You'll get exclusive content and members-only live shows. So head over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching. We appreciate your love and your support, and we will see you next time.